Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we actually had a very crazy story in regards to both the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, where it does actually kind of feel like they might have finally brute forced their way into a lot of the various like internal software and stuff like that with the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5. Now, this is a little bit on the scarier side, but also somewhat in the respectful side, that the PlayStation 4 has literally lasted this long, this many years, without actually having ever had a chance to kind of be fully broken into. Now, especially as we actually finally fully moved into the PlayStation 5. But right now, it's a little bit more on the scarier side, because some of these actually exploits could also go and affect the PlayStation 5 console. And now we don't want to have this go and happen, because obviously the console's only a year old, even though it doesn't really feel like a year old at all. And of course, we don't want to have more hackers, more internal information, and also, of course, more cheaters on our console. So we're going to talk about this really kind of big issue going on, talk about everything that's kind of happening, and overall, just kind of crazy news in all honesty when it comes to PlayStation. And as well, if any of you guys are brand new, make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on. As well, for the PS5 giveaway, we do actually have the brand new Samsung SSDs linked down below in case you guys want to go check them out and see. Twitter and Twitch stream down below if you guys want to follow. Amazon links for the PS5 digital console controller. Sign up for that Weeble. Deposit $100. You guys get a bunch of free stock and free money. And let's go down to the video itself and leave a like or a comment down below, because this actually might slowly turn into a somewhat worse situation. Although right now, we don't have to be worried and stressed too much. Kind of seeing this news overall is always a little bit scary just to go and see. So with this, we actually do have a very intriguing article over here from Kotaku, which finally has this over here stating the PlayStation 4 is jailbroken and the exploit itself may actually go and work on PlayStation 5 too, which is a little bit scary, especially when Kotaku themselves are, well, talking about it. So today's exploit opens up the door to many new folks now officially jailbreaking their PlayStation 4s, which also once again may lead to some stuff for the PS5. So as of now, December 13th, 2021 may go down in history as the day the PlayStation 4 finally got blown wide open, as a trio of console hackers now just released a new, ready-to-run kernel exploit for the PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro that works on the firmware version 9.00 and earlier, 9.00. In other words, running homebrew apps and unauthorized copies of games now just became feasible for a very significant chunk of PS4 owners. So once again, this is, first of all, I want to give some credit to Sony, because this literally was how many years? Like 7 years for them to finally have someone break into the PlayStation 4 kind of like hardware. That's insane. Like, you got to give that a lot of credit, mixed in on how sturdy that was. It's kind of intriguing though, because I do feel like back in like the 360 days, there was always someone with a modded console. Even like the Switch consoles, stuff like that, even like old Wii's, we've seen a lot of folks kind of jailbreak them, kind of go through them, even old iPhones, etc. So while it's kind of not necessarily the best news in terms of like potentially bad stuff, a lot of folks that usually do jailbreak their stuff usually isn't necessarily the worst, because it's just like people trying to play and emulate old games and stuff like that. It's kind of like a 50-50. You could kind of do somewhat bad stuff with it, but as well, you can also do some wholesome kind of chill stuff with it too as well. So the jailbreak, dubbed the P00BS4, is credited to PlayStation scene hackers and developers Spectre Dev, Chendo Chap, and Zumthler, with giving thanks to Slice Gory for their WebKit browser exploit and famous PlayStation hacking god, the flow for discovering the actual file system bug that allows this exploit to work. The jailbreak requires network access and a USB key containing a special file. After it runs, the console is free to receive a payload from a PC, such as the Mirror Project custom firmware or the Golden Hen homebrew enabler. Now, I may be misconstruing this. If you guys want, you guys can leave a comment down below if you guys want, but it kind of seems like it's more so just allowing access of outside USBs to finally go and change some of the internals when it comes to it, which would maybe make sense, mainly because you usually don't want to have your consoles accepting files, outside sources, because it always could lead to things like, you know, hacks, new file changes, changing the internal systems, viruses, whatever it could be, you know, just it's always a lot of different stuff. So I think there's usually a pretty big X-nay where they just don't want to have that allowed at all. So at least in my opinion, it kind of seems like it allows it to, of course, obviously go and start using this type of different type of files to basically make it go work. So basically after it runs, the console's free, and then it receives the payload as we mentioned. The first inkling something was up came yesterday evening when noted PlayStation scene hacker and developer Spectre Dev tweeted a video showing custom firmware running on a version 9.00 of the PlayStation 4, which you guys can probably go and see from right here. I'm trying to make the video a bit quicker or a little bit bigger, which it does actually go and show some intriguing stuff mixed on in with it. And of course, once again, that kind of allows other things to pop on up. So you may have been kind of a hard thing to go and see, but you can basically go and see, like, let's say like in a normal PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, you only have this stuff right here. So you have you have the Battlefield 4, Uncharted, Last of Us. And you don't usually have random apps like this mixed on in that you can go and casually add to your PlayStation 4 or PlayStation 5 console. This is probably, I think, the best example to give you guys can kind of see like what they're able to now go and do and launch up specific apps and programs with it from Twitter itself. Very intriguing to go and see. He also spoke up a few hours later tweeting that the exploit was real, and what's more, the kernel exploit the jailbreak utilizes should also work on the PlayStation 5 as well, which could be both potentially good and potentially bad. I'd probably say more so slightly on the worst side. But of course, as I mentioned, many people have actually just used normal jailbreaking things to more so kind of just utilize their console a little bit more. I mean, I remember back in the day when I used to like jailbreak my iPhone, like, my iPod Touch back in the day, just to allow a few more options. And I've definitely seen people do wholesome, not bad stuff with it. I think the part two of it is that if this is actually utilizable and changeable and people can actually maybe use this in a bad sense, this is maybe not good, because it does kind of seem like it has pretty much been confirmed, at least by hackers, that they can be able to go and utilize this, and it should be working on the PlayStation 5 as of, well, just whenever they want to go do it. Though thankfully right now, the PS5 version has not yet been created, in part due to the lead dev not having a PS5 yet relatable. Which that line right there is a lot of us. That's pretty hilarious too, mixed on in. So this on top of this was also followed up this morning by officially releasing the POOBS4 jailbreak with links then to the official GitHub. And apparently, yes, it was all confirmed real, and essentially, I don't want to really say it was hacked, but it kind of was pretty much hacked. So this is not the first time hackers have actually gained the ability to execute arbitrary code on the PS4, but it's definitely the most notable because prior exploits required would-be exploiters to keep their systems on older firmware versions that most people have already left behind. So what's a good example for this? Maybe a metaphor. So like imagine you have like a brand new fence versus an older fence. As your fence kind of gets older, it gets a little bit more like, a little bit more destroyed, a little bit more rattled, stuff like that. It's kind of easier to break on through. And if no one owns that fence because they clearly haven't been taking care of it, they're just like, whatever, do whatever. Now, if you have a new fence, though, usually it's a lot more sturdy, less broken down, and it's kind of hard to break on in. And that's kind of why, like, the big difference is, and the same thing with the PS5, is this is all brand new stuff that they're able to go maybe kind of sneak their way into the console. Now, when it comes to the PS5, thankfully, I'm sure a lot of the stuff would be able to go and be basically updated and changed as well with various updates, security concerns, etc. But when it comes to the PS4 doesn't get updated as often, and there's still quite a few million of users, even like a lot of daily users, even still on the PS4 consoles too as well. So with this, only a small subset of PlayStation 4 consoles were exploitable if for the past situation, where like someone was randomly stuck on point like 8.000, Sony doesn't care. They already moved past it and patched past it. They don't mind. Now this is 9.0, which is actually current day. Same with the PS5, which could be a little bit more on the scarier side. As well, also users can also play newer games that require the later firmware versions as well, which is kind of a big hindrance because if you have your console, a new game comes out and you want to go and play it. Which is why, like on the PS4, it's not as bad because the PS4 is technically more on the very tail end of its life cycle. Now, this happening to the PS5, though, is kind of good for that because then that means you have to play new games, which we'll be definitely getting new games these next 3-4 years. That does kind of force you to go update and change it. But the fact that this is actually, well, somewhat hackable, not too good. So in contrast, though, Sony's now exploitable version 9.0 firmware just came out as of September 15th, and the subsequent and not exploitable version 9.03 on December 1st. And in fact, all PS4 owners who haven't updated their consoles for the last 2 weeks are now able to fully now go and jailbreak their systems, install custom firmware, and well, install and run whatever they want afterwards too as well. Which is kind of a big issue because once again, this could lead to potentially maybe hacking, potentially more breaking the consoles, and all of this. Thankfully, you shouldn't have like your internal issues, fingers crossed, have any issues with that, credit card stuff like that, that should be perfectly fine. But this is a very, very intriguing story to see. This goose looks cut, and that's before considering Zulthers know that the kernel exploit potentially applies to PS5 as well. Better stick a pin in that. And that's why it's a little bit scary because as of right now, if someone never actually went and updated their PlayStation 5 and this like hack / change / jailbreak is accessible, that could also mean that people could be jailbreaking their PS5s as of right now. Now, granted, I'm sure not many folks would want to go and do that, But it's always very scary to kind of see these situations, and people can potentially even install their own custom firmware there too as well, which is kind of somewhat uncharted territory when it comes to the PlayStation 5. So of course, no console remains unhackable forever, and the PlayStation 4 had a very lengthy run, which I would give it a lot of credit towards. And while the streak that may have actually appeared largely over, today also marks the beginning of a new era of easy-to-access homebrew developments on Sony's cheap, relatively powerful hardware. So like I said, kind of good and kind of bad news. I'm not too anti-jailbreaking. I've seen people like utilize it stuff. I've seen people do it for fun, emulate stuff. I'm cool with that. But there's always that small chance that there could be something bad mixed on in. I'm always worried about that. But once again, thankfully, Sony probably can and probably will be able to update the console, especially for the PS5, and worst case for the PS4 too as well. But it's always kind of very scary to go and see this even happen more and more and more. So kind of give me your thoughts and comments down below. Not something we should be super worried about, but something definitely keep our close full eyes on. So if there's any more updates, I'll make sure to give you guys an update. Make sure you guys are subscribed with the notifications on as well for the brand new PlayStation 5 giveaway. Amazon links down below for the PS5 digital console and controller. Twitter and Twitch stream as well, link down below. Sign up for Weeble, deposit $100. You guys go get free stock and free money. Coinbase, you guys go buy $100 worth of any cryptocurrency. You guys go and get free Bitcoin. Those are always linked down below, and I appreciate you guys all so much for watching. Leave a like in your comments down below. Sam some links too as well if you guys want to click on those, and all the Weebles, Coinbase, Twitters, as I just said. And I'll see you guys up later on throughout today for hopefully some more good videos. Love you guys.